The investor meeting was going perfectly until I clicked on my private folder. My screen flickered for just a second, barely noticeable to anyone else in the room.
But I saw it.
Files were being accessed remotely in real time. Someone was watching my screen, copying my data, stealing my work. This was my personal laptop, the one I used for my most sensitive research, the one only I had access to. Yet someone was inside it, lurking in my digital shadows like a digital parasite. My heart stopped as the realization hit me. Camila Ortega, my co-founder and supposed best friend, was sitting right across from me with that perfect smile she always wore during presentations. She was nodding along as I explained our AI algorithms, asking thoughtful questions, playing the part of the supportive business partner. But she wasn't supporting me. She was spying on me. I forced myself to keep talking, to maintain my composure while my world crumbled around me. How long had she been watching? What had she seen? What had she stolen? Within minutes, I confirmed my worst fears. The spyware was sophisticated, hidden deep in my system. Every keystroke recorded, every file access logged, every screen captured and transmitted. Camila had been secretly monitoring my work for months. My best friend had betrayed me in the most invasive way possible. It all started with such promise. Isabel and Camila, two Latina women ready to conquer Silicon Valley together. We launched Sintra in a tiny OFFIC in San Diego, fueled by ambition CAFFI and the unshakable belief that we could change the world. I built the technology, revolutionary AI algorithms that could predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy. Camila brought the capital, the connections, and the charisma that investors loved. She could walk into any room and make people believe in our vision. The chemistry felt magical at first. We complemented each other perfectly. I was the quiet genius behind the scenes, crafting elegant code that solved impossible problems. She was the dynamic face of the company, translating my technical breakthroughs into business opportunities. Investors ate up our origin story. Two young Latina entrepreneurs breaking barriers in a male-dominated industry. The tech media loved us. Venture capitalists lined up for meetings. We were featured on magazine covers as the future of AI. But behind the glossy photos and success stories, cracks were already forming. Small things at first. Subtle power shifts that I brushed off as growing pains. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe this was just how startups worked. I had no idea how wrong I was. The changes started slowly, almost imperceptibly. Camila began taking meetings without me, claiming they were just preliminary discussions that didn't require technical input. She started editing my language in our pitch decks, softening my direct statements, and adding flowery business jargon. You're brilliant, Isabel. But sometimes you need to let the business side handle business, she'd say with that patronizing smile. Your job is to focus on the technology. Let me worry about everything else. She gave me coaching sessions that felt more like reprimands. My presentations were too technical, my explanations too complex. I needed to be more approachable, more relatable, more like her. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too caught up in the technical details to see the bigger picture. Camila had the MBA, the business experience, the investor relationships. Who was I to question her strategy? But deep down, something felt wrong. The way she looked at me during meetings, like she was calculating something. The way she paused before answering questions about our technology, as if she was trying to remember information that should have been second nature to a co-founder. The way she seemed to know things about my work that I'd never shared with her. I told myself I was being paranoid. Camila was my best friend, my business partner, my sister in all but blood. She would never betray me. I was so naive. The first real sign came when I noticed missing datasets from our shared servers. Complex algorithms I'd spent weeks perfecting were gone, replaced with older versions. Client emails had been sent from my account that I'd never written. Project timelines had been altered without my knowledge. When I confronted Camila about it, she gaslighted me with practiced ease. Maybe you left your laptop open in the OFFIC, she suggested with fake concern. You know how you get when you're deep in code, you forget about security protocols. Maybe it was a sync error with the cloud storage. She erred when I pressed further. These things happen with complex systems. Maybe you're just stressed and not remembering things clearly, she said with a sympathetic head tilt. You've been working such long hours lately. When's the last time you took a real break? I started doubting myself. Was I being forgetful? Was the stress getting to me? Camila seemed so certain, so logical in her explanations. She had reasonable answers for everything, but the incidents kept happening. Files disappearing, emails being sent without my knowledge, data being modified in ways that made no sense. Each time, Camila had a perfectly reasonable explanation that made me feel foolish for even asking. I was being systematically gaslit by someone I trusted completely. Dr. Rivera, my old college professor, pulled me aside at a tech conference in San Francisco. She'd been my mentor since undergraduate school, the woman who first encouraged me to pursue AI research when everyone else thought it was too ambitious for someone like me. Isabel, you look tired, she said, studying my face with the sharp eyes that had guided countless students through their careers. Is everything okay with your startup? I assured her everything was fine, that we were growing rapidly and preparing for a series of funding round. But Dr. Rivera wasn't convinced. Watch your files, Mija, she said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. I've seen too many brilliant women have their work stolen by charming partners. Don't let ambition blind you to betrayal. I laughed at OFF, telling her that Camila was DFF-erent. We were friends first, business partners second. We had each other's backs. Dr. Rivera was just being overly cautious, seeing threats where none existed. I hope you're right, she said. But her expression remained troubled. Just remember, protect your intellectual property like it's your firstborn child. Because in this industry, it might as well be. I walked away from that conversation feeling unsettled, but not really understanding why. Dr. Rivera's warning seemed paranoid, almost insulting to my friendship with Camila. Within weeks, I would realize she was trying to save my career. The betrayal became impossible to ignore during our investor presentation at the Horizon Ventures office. Camila was pitching features that I hadn't even finished building yet, promising delivery timelines that were completely unrealistic. She stood at the front of the conference room, laser pointer in hand, describing advanced machine learning capabilities that existed only in my research notes. Features that were months away from completion, if they were even possible at all. But she wasn't just exaggerating our capabilities. She was presenting them as her own concepts, using technical language she'd clearly memorized but didn't understand. When investors asked detailed questions, she deflected with business speak and promised follow-up documentation. I watched from the back of the room as my best friend delivered one of my breakthrough algorithms to a room full of investors, claiming credit for 2 years of my research without a moment's hesitation.
No et rellotgem. No acknowledgement.
Just Camila smiling confidently as she stole my life's work in real time. The investors were impressed. They saw revolutionary technology with massive market potential. They saw a charismatic CEO who could execute on an ambitious vision. They had no idea they were looking at a carefully orchestrated theft. I sat in silence, my hands clenched in my lap, watching my ideas being repackaged and sold by someone I trusted with everything. I needed proof. My brother Miguel was a cybersecurity analyst who specialized in corporate espionage cases. If anyone could help me figure out what was happening, it was him. I think someone might be accessing my laptop remotely, I told him over dinner at our parents' house. Files are being changed, emails sent from my account. I'm starting to think I'm not just being forgetful. Miguel's expression grew serious. That's not forgetfulness, ISA. That's infiltration. Let me install some logging software and see what we find. The next morning, Miguel came to my apartment with a toolkit that looked like something from a spy movie. He spent 2 hours analyzing my laptop, installing tracking programs and monitoring software that would capture any unauthorized access. Give it a few days, he said as he packed up his equipment. If someone's in your system, we'll see them. I didn't have to wait long. The very next day, Miguel called me with results that made my blood run cold. Isabel, someone has been monitoring your laptop for months. Remote keystroke captures, screen recordings, file access logs. This is professional-grade spyware. Whoever did this has been watching everything you do. He showed me the evidence on his laptop. Timestamps proving that my files were being accessed when my computer was locked. Network logs showing data being transmitted to external servers. Screenshots of my desktop being captured every few minutes. But the smoking gun was the installation method. The spyware had been delivered through a shared Dropbox installer that Camila had insisted we use for better collaboration. I sat in my car in the parking lot of our OFFIC building, staring at the evidence on Miguel's laptop screen. Everything I'd built, everything I'd created, everything I'd poured my heart into, all of it had been stolen by someone I'd loved like a sister. The betrayal cut deeper than any professional setback could. This wasn't just about business or money or credit for my work. This was about trust, friendship, and the complete violation of everything I'd believed about the person closest to me. I broke down completely. Months of suppressed doubts and dismissed suspicions came flooding out in ugly, desperate sobs. I felt like an idiot for trusting her. I felt violated, exposed, humiliated. Everything felt like a lie. Our friendship, our company, our shared dreams of changing the world. But as I sat there crying in my car, something shifted. Through the tears and the heartbreak, a cold, calculating thought began to form. If Camila wanted to spy on me, if she wanted to steal my work and claim credit for my innovations, then maybe it was time she got exactly what she was looking for. If she was watching everything I did, maybe it was time I made sure she was watching the wrong things. The game was about to change, and Camila had no idea what was coming. I went home that night and created a new folder on my laptop called project_nextgen_confidential. Inside, I began crafting the most elaborate lie of my life. Every document in that folder was fake, growth reports showing explosive user adoption, revenue projections that climbed exponentially, breakthrough AI capabilities that didn't actually exist. But I didn't make them obviously fake. That would have been too suspicious. Instead, I made them optimistically fake. Numbers that were too good to be true, but not impossible. Technical breakthroughs that sounded plausible to someone without deep AI expertise. Market projections that would make any investor drool. I spent 3 days perfecting my deception, creating a complete alternate reality where Sintra was on the verge of becoming the next Google. Fake client contracts, imaginary user metrics, fictional breakthrough algorithms that would revolutionize the industry. But the masterpiece was my customer pipeline document, a detailed list of Fortune 500 companies supposedly ready to sign massive contracts with us. Companies that had never even heard of Sintra, let alone expressed interest in our services. I saved everything in my monitored folder and made sure to leave my laptop unlocked during lunch breaks, giving Camila's spyware plenty of opportunities to capture my fake empire. Now all I had to do was wait for her to take the bait. Camila bit hard and fast. Within a week, she was using my fabricated numbers word for word in investor conversations. She quoted my fake growth metrics in internal meetings. She promised delivery of features that existed only in my fictional documents. But the real proof came when she secured a solo meeting with Horizon Ventures, our dream investor, using my completely fabricated customer pipeline as leverage. She walked into that meeting with a presentation built entirely on lies she thought were trade secrets. I watched from across the street as she entered the Horizon building, carrying a laptop full of stolen fiction that she believed was going to make her rich. She had no idea she was about to destroy herself with my carefully crafted deceptions. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Camila emerged looking confident and energized, calling me immediately to share the good news. "Isabel, you're not going to believe this," she said, barely able to contain her excitement. "Horizon is incredibly interested. They want to fast-track our Series A discussion. They're talking about investing based on our customer pipeline and growth projections." She was so proud of herself for landing this opportunity, so excited about the validation from one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious firms, so convinced that she was the mastermind behind our success. If only she knew she was celebrating with stolen lies. As our fake success mounted, Camila's true nature emerged more clearly. She started icing me out of important meetings, claiming I was too technical for investor discussions. She told potential partners that I wasn't leadership material and couldn't handle the business side of our operations. "Isabel's brilliant with code," she'd say with a patronizing smile, "but she doesn't really understand how to scale a business. That's why we work so well together. I handle strategy while she focuses on what she does best." Investors began addressing their questions directly to Camila, treating me like a junior employee rather than a co-founder. She encouraged this dynamic, positioning herself as the visionary CEO while relegating me to the role of head engineer. But I kept smiling. I kept nodding. I kept playing the part of the grateful technical co-founder who was lucky to have such a business-savvy partner. Meanwhile, I was creating better lies, more sophisticated fake metrics, deeper layers of fictional success that would make our eventual crash even more spectacular. Every insult Camila delivered while stealing my fake work was another nail in her professional co-FFIN.
She just didn't know it yet.
The tech summit in Los Angeles was Camila's moment to shine. She'd been invited to speak on a panel about women disrupting AI, and she was going to use my stolen metrics to cement her reputation as a visionary founder. I sat in the audience, recording everything on my phone as she flaunted fake growth numbers to an audience of industry leaders. She spoke with such confidence about our revolutionary breakthrough in machine learning and our unprecedented user adoption rates. She answered questions about technical implementations she didn't understand, using buzzwords I'd planted in my fake documents. She promised investors in the audience access to opportunities that didn't exist based on partnerships that were completely fictional. The audience was mesmerized. Here was a young Latina CEO who'd apparently built an AI company that was growing faster than Facebook in its early days. Tech journalists scribbled notes furiously. Venture capitalists lined up to give her their business cards. Camila was building a house of cards with my fake metrics, and she had no idea how high I was letting her stack them before I knocked them all down. Every lie she told on that stage was being recorded, time-stamped, and saved as evidence of the fraud she was committing with stolen information. The golden meeting arrived faster than I expected. Based entirely on my fabricated customer pipeline and fictional growth metrics, Camila had secured a Series A presentation with Horizon Ventures, the same firm that had rejected our initial approach 6 months earlier. She spent weeks preparing, memorizing every fake number I'd planted in my monitored folders. She practiced presentations built on lies, created financial projections based on fiction, and developed a growth strategy that assumed capabilities we'd never actually achieve. I watched her preparation with a mixture of fascination and horror. She was so invested in my deceptions that she seemed to have convinced herself they were real. She spoke about our fake successes with genuine enthusiasm, as if she'd actually built the empire she was claiming. The presentation was scheduled for Thursday morning. Camila would walk into Horizon's conference room armed with nothing but stolen lies, ready to bet our company's future on metrics that existed only in my imagination. I knew it was only a matter of time before someone did the math, before someone asked for verification, before the whole elaborate fiction collapsed under its own weight. But I also knew that when it did collapse, Camila would be standing at the center of the wreckage, holding evidence of fraud that would destroy her career forever. As the Horizon meeting approached, I started to panic. What if the investors moved too quickly? What if they skipped their usual due diligence process and made an OFF based purely on Camila's presentation? What if my plan backfired and actually succeeded? I couldn't let Camila get away with stealing my work, even if that work was fictional. I couldn't let her build a career on lies and deception. But I also couldn't let our company take millions of dollars based on fraudulent metrics. So I refined my plan, embedding deeper flaws in the fake data, mathematical inconsistencies that would become obvious under scrutiny, technical claims that would fall apart under expert review, customer references that wouldn't hold up to basic verification. I created a trail of breadcrumbs that would lead any competent analyst straight to the truth. Our metrics were fake. Our claims were false. And someone had been systematically deceiving investors with fabricated data. The only question was whether Horizon would notice the problems before or after they cut us a check. Either way, Camila was about to discover that stealing my work came with consequences she'd never imagined. The term sheet arrived on a Tuesday morning. $5 million in series of funding, based entirely on the fake metrics Camila had presented using my stolen lies. Camila celebrated like she'd won the lottery. She bought champagne, called her parents, posted cryptic success messages on social media. She was living her dream of being a funded startup CEO, even though that dream was built on a foundation of fraud and theft. But when I read through the term sheet carefully, my blood ran cold. My name was listed as a co-founder, but with zero decision-making power. Camila had structured the deal to give herself complete control of the company, relegating me to the role of a highly paid employee. She tried to write me out of my own company while using fake metrics she'd stolen from my laptop. The audacity was breathtaking. She was literally stealing fake success from me and using it to steal real control of the business we'd built together. That night, I called Miguel and told him it was time to execute the final phase of our plan. "Are you sure about this, ISA?" he asked. "Once we trigger this, there's no going back. Camila's career will be over." I thought about the spyware on my laptop, the stolen presentations, the systematic gaslighting, the attempt to cut me out of my own company. "She made her choice when she decided to spy on me," I said. "Now she gets to live with the consequences." I reached out to Marcus Chun, a junior analyst at Horizon Ventures who'd been assigned to our due diligence process. I'd met him briefly at a tech conference and remembered him as someone who actually understood the technical side of AI investments. "Marcus, I wanted to share some concerns about our growth projections," I said during a casual coffee meeting. "I'm worried that some of our metrics might seem inflated compared to what's actually in our live system." I was careful not to directly accuse Camila of anything. I just planted seeds of doubt, suggesting that there might be discrepancies between what was being presented and what our backend data actually showed. "Some of these customer pipeline numbers aren't reflected in our current CRM system yet," I mentioned casually. "And a few of the technical capabilities Camila mentioned are still in development phases." Marcus listened intently, taking notes. As a technical analyst, he understood the difference between projected capabilities and actual implementations. He knew that startups often exaggerated their metrics, but he also knew how to verify claims through data analysis. "Would you be comfortable if we did a deeper technical audit of your systems?" he asked. I nodded, trying to look helpful rather than scheming. "Of course. I'm happy to explain our real data if there's any confusion about what we've built versus what we're planning to build." The trap was set. Horizon paused their investment process and requested internal access to Sintra's backend systems. They wanted to verify our user metrics, examine our actual customer data, and validate the technical capabilities that Camila had promised. Camila panicked. She knew that our real metrics were nowhere close to what she'd presented, but she didn't understand why. In her mind, she'd simply shared the confidential data I'd been working on. She had no idea that everything she'd stolen was completely fabricated. "Isabel, we need to talk," she said, cornering me in our office kitchen. "Horizon wants to audit our systems. They're asking for access to data that I thought you said was confidential." I acted confused and helpful. "I'm happy to walk them through our real numbers if there's confusion about our projections versus our current performance. Maybe there was a miscommunication about what stage some of our features are in." She stared at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. She was starting to realize that something was very wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. "The customer pipeline you showed me, is that confirmed revenue or potential revenue?" she asked carefully. "What customer pipeline?" I replied innocently. "I haven't finalized any major enterprise deals yet. We're still in early conversations with most of those companies." I watched the color drain from her face as she realized she'd been presenting fiction as fact. The audit results were devastating. Horizon's technical team found contradictions everywhere they looked. Customer contracts that didn't exist. User metrics that couldn't be verified. Revenue projections based on partnerships that had never been finalized. They discovered fake client names, imaginary conversion rates, and technical capabilities that were physically impossible with our current infrastructure. Every number Camila had presented was either exaggerated or completely fictional. But the most damning evidence came from the metadata analysis. Horizon's IT security team examined the source files for our presentations and discovered something interesting. The data had been accessed and copied from a laptop that wasn't authorized for company file sharing. The stolen information had digital fingerprints all over it, timestamps showing when files were accessed, network logs proving unauthorized data transmission, even screenshots captured by spyware that Camila had no idea was being logged by Miguel's monitoring software. Camila insisted the data was real, but she couldn't explain the discrepancies. She claimed there must be some mistake in our data management, but she couldn't provide any verification for her claims. The lies were unraveling faster than she could spin new explanations. Every answer she gave only made her look more guilty of systematic deception. The confrontation happened in our office on a Thursday afternoon. Camila stormed into my workspace, her usual composure completely shattered. "What did you do?" she demanded, slamming her laptop shut. "Horizon is pulling out. They're saying our metrics are fraudulent. They think I've been lying to them." I looked up from my code with genuine surprise. "What are you talking about?" "I've been working on debugging our algorithms all week." "What metrics?" "The growth reports, the customer pipeline, the technical capabilities, everything you've been working on in your confidential folders." I frowned, genuinely confused. "Camila, I never shared any growth reports with you. I've been focused on core development work. Where did you get customer pipeline data?" She stared at me, and I could see the exact moment when she realized what had happened. Her face went through a series of emotions: confusion, recognition, horror, and finally rage. "You set me up," she whispered. I kept my expression neutral. "I just kept working on what you asked me to work on. You were the one presenting numbers to investors. I never approved any of those projections." She realized she was completely alone. She'd stolen fake data, presented it as real intelligence, and destroyed her credibility with one of Silicon Valley's most respected firms. And there was no way to prove I'd done it intentionally. The collapse happened faster than I'd anticipated. Horizon pulled out immediately, citing significant discrepancies in reported metrics and concerns about data integrity. Other investors quickly followed suit once word spread through the Silicon Valley network. Camila's reputation was destroyed overnight. The tech community was small, and news of fraudulent investor presentations traveled fast. VCs shared warnings about inflated metrics and unreliable data sources that made future fundraising impossible. Our board of directors called an emergency meeting. Legal counsel was brought in to investigate potential securities fraud. Camila's access to company systems was revoked pending the outcome of their internal review. She tried to fight back, claiming she'd been the victim of internal sabotage and deliberately misleading information. But she couldn't explain how she'd obtained the false data without admitting to the spyware surveillance. Her Instagram went dark. Her LinkedIn profile was quietly updated to remove her CEO title. Industry publications that had once celebrated her as a rising star began distancing themselves from the scandal. I watched it all unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. This was justice, but it was also the destruction of everything we'd built together. The difference was that I'd chosen to destroy it rather than let her steal it. When the board requested documentation of our technical capabilities and business metrics, I provided them with a comprehensive trail of evidence. Email timestamps showing when real data was created versus when fake data was accessed. Development logs proving which features actually existed versus which ones had been promised to investors. I presented everything calmly and professionally. No drama, no accusations, just the truth laid out in spreadsheets and technical documentation. The evidence spoke for itself. Someone had been presenting fabricated metrics to investors while the actual founders were building legitimate technology. The digital forensics were particularly damning. "These aren't projections," the lead board member concluded after reviewing everything. "These are fantasy scenarios designed to deceive investors." Poetic justice delivered in PowerPoint presentations and network access logs. The boardroom reckoning was swift and decisive. Camila attempted to defend herself by claiming that she'd been working with preliminary data and that there must have been miscommunication about which metrics were finalized versus projected. But the board wasn't buying it. They'd seen the evidence of unauthorized access to my laptop. They'd reviewed the timeline of when fake data was created versus when it was presented to investors. They understood the difference between optimistic projections and deliberate deception. The metrics you presented to Horizon were not preliminary projections, the board chair explained patiently. They were fabricated data points with no basis in our actual business performance. Camila tried to blame me, suggesting that I'd provided her with inaccurate information. But she couldn't explain how she'd obtained that information without admitting to the spyware surveillance that Miguel's logs had documented in excruciating detail. The vote was unanimous. Camila was removed as CEO effective immediately. Her equity was reduced to a minority position with no voting rights. A new management team would be brought in to rebuild investor confidence and restore the company's reputation. The board offered me the CEO position I'd earned all along, the role that should have been mine from the beginning if I hadn't been too trusting to see Camila's manipulations. I accepted. Rebuilding Sintra took months of careful work. I restructured the company around transparency and technical excellence. I rehired talented engineers who'd been overlooked or pushed out during Camila's reign. I focused on building real capabilities rather than impressive presentations. The most important change was cultural. No more lone wolf leadership or secretive decision-making. No more presentation metrics that couldn't be verified in our back-end systems. Everything was documented, collaborative, and based on actual data rather than optimistic projections. Clients began trusting us again because they could see that our claims were backed by real technology. Investors returned because they could verify our metrics through independent audits. The tech community stopped whispering about fraudulent presentations and started talking about our genuine innovations. The brand rebounded stronger than before. We had something that many startups lacked: complete honesty about our capabilities, our limitations, and our development timeline. Success built on truth turned out to be much more sustainable than success built on stolen lies. 6 months after her removal from Sintra, Camila attempted to launch a new startup. She used the same business model, the same pitch deck structure, even some of the same technical language from our original presentations. But I'd quietly filed intellectual property protections for our core AI architecture during the chaos of her departure. The patent applications I'd submitted covered not just our actual technology, but also the theoretical frameworks that Camila was trying to replicate. Her new startup was shut down within 3 weeks of launch, hit with cease and desist letters that made it impossible to raise funding or hire engineers. No investor wanted to back a company that was already facing IP litigation from a former partner. Camila's second attempt at entrepreneurship died before it could take its first breath, killed by the same methodical preparation that had destroyed her original scheme. She'd underestimated me twice. Once when she thought she could spy on me without consequences, and again when she thought she could replicate my work without facing legal protection. Some people never learn. Today, I was invited to speak at a Women in Tech panel in San Francisco, the same conference where Dr. Rivera had warned me about protecting my work years earlier. "What advice would you give to young women entering the startup world?" the moderator asked. I thought about Camila's spyware, the stolen presentations, the systematic betrayal that had almost destroyed everything I'd built. I thought about the fake metrics that had taken down a thief and the real metrics that had rebuilt a company. "Protect your work like your life depends on it," I said into the microphone. "Trust your gut when something feels wrong. And never let someone steal what you bled to build." I didn't mention Camila by name. I didn't need to. Everyone in the tech community knew the story. The CEO who'd been caught presenting fabricated metrics. The co-founder who'd been removed for systematically deceiving investors. The cautionary tale about what happens when ambition turns into fraud. But they also knew the other story. The technical founder who'd rebuilt her company from scandal to success. The woman who'd proven that real innovation beats stolen lies every time. My name meant something in Silicon Valley now. And this time, no one could steal it.